You can plant the most powerful seeds in the world, but if there are weeds in your garden, those weeds will choke out your harvest. The same principle applies to your consciousness. You can speak to yourself with tremendous intention and power, but if you're simultaneously running old programs of self-sabotage, those programs will undermine your progress. Why do people sabotage themselves just when they're about to break through? Why do they quit when they're on the verge of success? Why do they retreat into old patterns just when new possibilities are emerging? The answer lies in understanding the difference between your conscious mind and your subconscious programming. Your conscious mind wants to change, grow, and succeed, but your subconscious mind has been programmed to keep you safe, comfortable, and familiar. When you begin to step outside your familiar patterns, your subconscious mind activates what I call the safety mechanism. The safety mechanism is not trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. But it's protecting you from imaginary dangers while preventing you from real opportunities. It's keeping you safe from growth, safe from success, safe from the very life you're trying to create. This is why transformation feels uncomfortable. This is why change creates anxiety. This is why your old patterns intensify just when you're trying to establish new ones. Your subconscious mind is fighting to maintain the status quo because the status quo feels safe. But here's what you must understand. The safety mechanism operates through specific patterns. It uses predictable strategies to keep you stuck. And once you recognize these strategies, you can neutralize them. The first strategy is excuse creation. Your subconscious mind becomes incredibly creative at generating reasons why you can't continue your new practices. I don't have time today. I'm too tired. I'll start again tomorrow. This isn't working anyway. These aren't rational thoughts. These are protective mechanisms designed to pull you back into familiar territory. The way to neutralize excuse creation is to recognize it for what it is and choose your response consciously. When your mind says, I don't have time, you say, I'm making time because this is important. When your mind says, I'm too tired, you say, I'm energized by my commitment to growth. When your mind says, I'll start again tomorrow, you say, I'm continuing right now. The second strategy is perfectionism paralysis. Your subconscious mind will convince you that if you can't do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. It will magnify every small mistake and use it as evidence that you're failing. But perfection is not the standard. Progress is the standard. Every time you choose an empowering thought over a limiting one, you're making progress. Every time you speak to yourself with intention rather than default, you're making progress. Every time you catch yourself reverting to old patterns and consciously choose new ones, you're making progress. The third strategy is comparison trap. Your subconscious mind will show you other people who seem to have it easier, who seem to be naturally confident, who seem to succeed without effort. It will use these comparisons to convince you that transformation works for others, but not for you. But transformation is not about comparing yourself to others. It's about comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. It's about measuring your progress against your past, not someone else's present. The fourth strategy is crisis creation. Just when you're making progress, your subconscious mind will create or magnify a crisis that demands your immediate attention. Suddenly, you're too busy dealing with emergencies to continue your inner dialogue practice. But most crises are not as urgent as they seem. Most emergencies are not as important as they appear. The way to neutralize crisis creation is to maintain your practices, especially when life gets chaotic. This is when your inner dialogue practice is most needed, not when it's most expendable. Now, how do successful people handle these sabotage patterns differently than everyone else? They recognize them. They expect them. They prepare for them. They don't let temporary discomfort derail their long-term transformation. Successful people understand that resistance is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of change. They don't interpret mental chatter as evidence that the process isn't working. They interpret it as evidence that the process is working so well that their old patterns are fighting for survival. Let me tell you about the difference between a success mentality and a mediocrity mentality. When faced with a challenge, mediocre people ask, why me? Successful people ask, how can I use this? When faced with a setback, mediocre people say, this proves I can't do it. Successful people say, this shows me what I need to learn. When mediocre people make a mistake, they speak to themselves with judgment and criticism. When successful people make a mistake, they speak to themselves with curiosity and compassion. When mediocre people face rejection, they take it personally and let it define them. When successful people face rejection, they take it professionally and let it refine them. The difference is not in their circumstances. The difference is in their inner dialogue. The difference is in how they speak to themselves about their circumstances. Mediocre people rehearse their problems. Successful people rehearse their solutions. Mediocre people focus on what they lack. Successful people focus on what they possess. Mediocre people speak to themselves as if they're victims of life. Successful people speak to themselves as if they're creators of life. Which conversation are you having with yourself right now? Are you speaking to yourself like a victim or like a creator? Are you rehearsing your problems or your solutions? Are you focusing on what you lack or what you possess? Here's your 3-day protocol for eliminating self-sabotage and creating extraordinary results. Every time you notice yourself making excuses, procrastinating, or reverting to old patterns, you simply observe it without judgment. You don't try to change it yet, you just become aware of it. Most people are shocked by how often they sabotage themselves. They discover they've been their own worst enemy without even realizing it. But awareness is the first step toward change. You cannot change what you cannot see. Day 2 is Interruption Day. Now that you're aware of your sabotage patterns, you begin to interrupt them. Every time you catch yourself making an excuse, you stop and choose a different response. Every time you notice yourself reverting to old patterns, you pause and consciously choose new ones. This is not about perfection. This is about practice. Every interruption is a victory. Every conscious choice is progress. Every time you catch yourself and choose differently, you're rewiring your brain for success. Day 3 is Integration Day. By now, you've become skilled at recognizing and interrupting your sabotage pattern. Today, you begin to integrate new patterns so seamlessly that they become your natural response. You're not fighting the old patterns anymore. You're flowing with new ones. You're not forcing change anymore. You're allowing transformation. You're not trying to be someone different anymore. You're being someone different. But this 3-day protocol is just the beginning. To create extraordinary results, you need daily disciplines that become as natural as breathing. Your first daily discipline is morning intentionality. Before you check your phone, before you read the news, before you engage with the outside world, you engage with your inner world. You spend the first 15 minutes of your day speaking to yourself about your capabilities, your purpose, and your potential. You declare, I am intelligent enough to solve any problem I face today. I am creative enough to find solutions others miss. I am persistent enough to continue when others quit. I am worthy of the success I'm creating. I am capable of handling whatever comes my way. This is not empty repetition. This is conscious programming. You're setting the tone for your entire day. You're establishing the frequency on which your consciousness will operate. Your second daily discipline is challenge reframing. Every time you face a difficulty, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, how can I use this to grow? Instead of saying, this is terrible, you say, this is challenging, and I'm capable of handling challenges. You're not denying the reality of problems. You're choosing your response to problems. You're not pretending difficulties don't exist. You're affirming your capacity to grow through difficulties. Your third daily discipline is evening reflection. Before you go to sleep, you reflect on your progress. You acknowledge the moments when you chose empowering thoughts over limiting ones. You celebrate the times when you spoke to yourself with strength rather than weakness. You also identify areas where you can improve tomorrow, not with judgment, but with curiosity, not with criticism, but with compassion. You're not perfect, and you don't need to be. You're progressing, and that's enough. Your fourth daily discipline is opportunity recognition. Throughout the day, you train yourself to look for possibilities rather than problems. You speak to yourself about what's working rather than what's not working. You focus on what you can control rather than what you can't control. This is not about being unrealistic. This is about being strategic. Successful people don't see fewer problems than everyone else. They see more opportunities than everyone else. They speak to themselves about possibilities even when surrounded by challenges. Your fifth daily discipline is strength reinforcement. Every time you handle a difficult situation, you acknowledge your strength. Every time you solve a problem, you recognize your intelligence. Every time you persist through a challenge, you affirm your determination. You're not waiting for others to validate your capabilities. You're validating them yourself. You're not hoping for external recognition. You're providing internal recognition. You're not depending on circumstances to make you feel strong. You're choosing to feel strong regardless of circumstances. These disciplines are not suggestions. They're requirements. They're not optional activities. They're essential practices. They're not things you do when you feel like it. They're things you do especially when you don't feel like it. Extraordinary results require extraordinary discipline, not in your actions, but in your consciousness, not in your behavior, but in your inner dialogue, not in what you do, but in what you tell yourself about what you do. The people who achieve extraordinary results are not people who have extraordinary circumstances. They're people who have extraordinary inner dialogue. They speak to themselves in ways that create confidence, courage, and capability. But here's what I want you to understand. This is not about becoming someone different. This is about becoming who you really are. This is not about adding something to yourself. This is about removing everything that's not authentically you. You are not limited by your past. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not restricted by your circumstances. You are not bound by others' opinions. You are not condemned to repeat old patterns. You are consciousness expressing itself through form. You are creative power individualized. You are unlimited potential waiting to be actualized. You are the author of your own experience. You are the director of your own life. The only question is, what story will you tell yourself? What script will you write? What role will you play? What life will you create? Every word you speak to yourself is a choice. Every thought you think is a decision. Every conversation you have with yourself is either building your future or destroying it. 3 days from now, you can be living differently. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because your consciousness has changed. Not because the world has improved, but because your inner dialogue has improved. Not because life has become easier, but because you've become stronger. The power is in your hands. It has always been in your hands. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. The time is now. It has always been now. Every morning when you wake up, you have the opportunity to speak to yourself as if you're the person you want to become. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to respond from strength rather than weakness. Every moment of every day is a chance to choose thoughts that serve you rather than limit you. The conversation you have with yourself right now is creating your tomorrow. The words you speak to yourself today are building the foundation for your future. The thoughts you think in this moment are programming your brain for success or failure. Choose success. Choose strength. Choose possibility. Choose to speak to yourself as if you're capable of anything, worthy of everything, and destined for greatness, because you are. You always have been. You always will be. The only question is, will you finally start speaking to yourself like you believe it? Your extraordinary life begins with your next thought. Your transformation starts with your next word. Your success originates with your next conversation with yourself. What will you choose to say?